Hi, this is Tyler from the Assist King podcast. I'm back. Things have been hectic around school, so I have been not giving this podcast or my vlogs any attention. So I ended up beating what is basically the single player of Monster Hunter. That involves the almost final boss of the single player is killing the Ivory Lagiacrus, which is a white sea serpent that is touted as the conqueror of land and sea because it's difficult to fight in both settings. That was pretty easy actually. At the point of me killing that monster, I was clocked in at about 120 hours. Just gonna let that sit for a bit. That many, yeah. So finish that off. But I'm kind of on the taking a break from Monster Hunter for a little bit, so I ended up dropping some cash for Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I have a very brief history with with Legend of Zelda in general, so I'm a huge fan of the series. I have a pretty extensive knowledge about it in terms of the lore and gameplay and the history of the franchise itself, but I've only played 3 of them, including Ocarina of Time. There's a big reason that I finally rediscovered, or I should say discovered, playing Ocarina of Time again. So I'll start with the history first. My brother owned a Game Boy Color. My brother ended up buying Oracle of Ages for his Game Boy Color, and he let me play it every once in a while just because he's a good older brother. He got really far in his save file because you have to acquire, like, instead of just getting items, you can acquire like mounts, a triceratops and a kangaroo and stuff like that. They all like did different things. I don't remember ever getting to that part, but I would always play his save file just so I could experience that. That was my first go with Legend of Zelda. The second time around, when I eventually, like several years later, I got a Game Boy Advance and I started playing and beat Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. That game, in my opinion, out of all the Legend of Zelda games, because of 2 things: it's short and it's easy, I enjoyed it. So flash forward to the present, I finally realized why I don't really enjoy the gaming experience of Legend of Zelda is because I suck at him. Going through Ocarina of Time, I already got to the part where I've already gotten past the point where Link time travels to the future. I slowly started to realize that I'm not that great at Legend of Zelda because I get easily frustrated due to my impatience. Legend of Zelda is a very slow-going, in my opinion, mind you, it's a very slow-going, patient, methodical kind of game because there's a lot of puzzle solving and adventuring, which sounds like fun, and for a majority of people it is. And at one point I found that really fun, but it got to the point where that is outweighing the action part of it, which I find more satisfaction in, and it's driving me nuts because I keep getting stuck. I'm in the forest temple trying to get to Saria or whatever, and I got stuck. And I've been stuck on it for the past 2 days because I refuse to look it up. I have one person-to-person reference, and I'll ask him on occasion if this thing works with this and yada yada yada. Non-specific questions, but just kind of like hints to help me along. And he does a good job of it because he's played, I think, all of them. I believe he's played every single Legend of Zelda, and so he knows them well enough to help me out in a way that isn't truly telling of the answers that I seek, which is nice. He's my hint system without having to look up the real answers. So back to my point, I really suck at these games just because of my impatience, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, okay, so this is gonna be a weird cut. Whatever. I think it's a weird thought process because I'm coming from Monster Hunter where you have to dedicate a lot of time to reach ultimately a lot of smaller goals that lead up to bigger goals, and that's all under the player's power, like their choice, as opposed to it being a story-driven element. It's just a player element. But coming to Legend of Zelda, where it's story and narrative driven, the only satisfaction I get is more text to read, and I know how all the story goes, so it's not completely dissatisfying, but I figure had I gone into the game completely more blind than I am right now, it would be a lot more fun. And that being said, my patience is not impatience is not helping much at all. And not knocking on Legend of Zelda, it's just me personally as a gamer. So all that being said, I like Ocarina of Time. It's fun. It's just really hard for me. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't been playing much Psychonauts because I ended up making progress through Sasha 9's level, and I forgot to save and I quit out. Even though there's an autosave, Michael told me, so I gotta check on that. But I didn't go back to that because after I realized I quit out before saving, I got like kind of pissed off, so I just haven't gone back to it. I also bought 2 puzzle platformers, which is interesting now going back to Legend of Zelda because it's at their core they're all very similar. But I got 2 puzzle platformers. They're indie games. One of them being Fez, where you play as this little character who has to go around collecting cubes. That one's really fun because you're a 2D character in a 3D world, but none of the other characters except for your like your grandfather character or whatever and this omnipotent other character know that it's 3D. But you have to like shift the world around and stuff like that to look around corners and make jumps that normally would not have existed in the 2D world, but in the 3D world it does. So that's really interesting. I also bought Rochard, which is a gravity-based 2D puzzle platformer. That one has combat, which is cool. You usually have to use your little gravity gun. It's not like well, actually it is. It's just a lot less violent because it's not as full-blown. Rochard is equipped with his gravity gun, so he can pick up boxes and like lob them at enemies, and it kills them with a swift boom. That's really fun. And he also has control over the gravity of where he is, so he can at will like go from going like this and jumping like that to going. At some point I'm gonna go back and finish those ones because I know they aren't particularly long. So if I feel like I need to go through a more intellectual game as opposed to one that requires just a lot of reaction time or good reaction time and twitch sort of muscles, I'll definitely go back to those. So I have them in my back pocket with plenty of other games that I have yet to talk about. So on that note, I think I'll end it here. As of this recording, I have a very busy weekend in front of me. I got to do a 24-hour film contest. That's gonna be fun. In the future too, I'm gonna be bringing on more people, and we're gonna, instead of talking about the franchises, I think I brought this up before, but instead of talking about franchises in particular, I'm just gonna bring up talking points. And I think the first one that I plan on doing is about video game habits that you have for video that are like kind of specific to video games, but they're habits that you have that are outside of the games, if that makes sense. So yeah, bye. I got a thing on my lip. That's gross. Looks like you guys are gonna have to live with watching that.